Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Easy English Bible Study Podcast. My name is David Gray, and together we're going to study the Bible, and I'll make comments in easy to understand English. Okay, let's get started. Welcome again, and today is the third Sunday in Lent. The third Sunday in Lent. Our gospel reading is from the Gospel of John, chapter 4, verses 5 to 26. The Gospel of John, chapter 4, verses 5 to 26. This is the story of Jesus talking with a Samaritan woman. Okay, let's start at verse 5. So he came to a town in Samaria called Sychar, near the plot of ground Jacob had given to his son Joseph. Jacob's well was there, and Jesus, tired as he was from the journey, sat down by the well. It was about noon. Okay, so let's explain a little bit. Jesus is in Samaria. Now, often at that time, the Jewish people did not want to go into Samaria. They avoided Samaria. The Jewish people and the Samaritan people did not like each other. The Jewish people and the Samaritan people did not like each other, and they were similar people. They had the Old Testament together that they believed in, but they also had some differences. Anyhow, so Jesus is in this small town in Samaria, near a plot of ground Jacob had given to his son Joseph. So this is from the Old Testament. These are famous people from the Old Testament, Jacob and Joseph. And it says that Jacob's well was there. You know, a well is a place that you go to get water. Jacob's well was there. Okay, so Jesus is there. He's tired. It's about 12 o'clock. Verse 7, when a Samaritan woman came to draw water, Jesus said to her, "Will you give me a drink?" His disciples had gone into town to buy food. All right, so Jesus is there at the well. He doesn't have a way to get the water. He doesn't have a bucket. He doesn't have a way to draw out the water. So to draw out the water is get the water out. And he asks the Samaritan woman for a drink. Verse 9, the Samaritan woman said to him, "You are a Jew, and I am a Samaritan woman. How can you ask me for a drink?" For Jews do not associate with Samaritans. Jewish people don't talk with Samaritans. They don't want to have any dealings, any relationship with Samaritans. So why are you talking to me? She says. And also, she's a woman. Maybe a man would not talk to a woman in those days so easily. All right, so this is a big surprise. One, that Jesus is talking to the Samaritan, and also that he's talking to a woman. Verse 10, Jesus answered her, "If you knew the gift of God and who it is that asks you for a drink, you would have asked him, and he would have given you living water." Okay, this is difficult English, but let's do our best. So Jesus is basically saying, if you knew the gift of God, if you knew this opportunity this special chance that God has given you. And if you knew who I am, that Jesus is the Messiah, the Son of God, if you knew those things, you would ask me for living water. In other words, if you knew who I really am, you would know that I can give you living water. This must have been very confusing for the woman to hear. What is he talking about? Verse 11, Sir, the woman said, you have nothing to draw with, and the well is deep. Where can you get this living water? Are you greater than our father Jacob, who gave us the well and drank from it himself, as did also his sons and his livestock? So she's talking about the well, that the well is from Jacob, and Jacob and his sons and the animals drank from it. She's saying, are you greater than Jacob? Well, yes, Jesus is greater than Jacob. And she says, you have nothing to draw with. You don't have any kind of bucket or any way to get the water out, this living water, right? So she's thinking about something, a physical, something in the world, like she's thinking this is a special kind of water. This is similar to our previous episode in which, remember, Jesus said, you must be born again. You must be born again. In the Nicodemus thought Jesus meant that a person had to go inside his mother's womb and be physically born again. So Jesus took it literally and physically, but Jesus meant it spiritually. It's something very real. I'm not saying it's not real, but it's spiritual. This living water that Jesus is talking about. It's not a special kind of water that you drink literally. He's talking about something spiritual. So she doesn't understand this yet. Okay, so verse 13. Jesus answered, everyone who drinks this water will be thirsty again. But whoever drinks the water I give them will never thirst. Indeed, the water I give them will become in them a spring of water welling up to eternal life. So if you drink ordinary water, the water that we all drink, that everybody drinks, you get thirsty again. But Jesus is talking about something spiritual that he can give new life. Just like Jesus talked about being born again, new life. So Jesus is saying that he can give new life, new spiritual life to people. A life that lasts forever. Eternal life. Verse 15, the woman said to him, Sir, give me this water so that I won't get thirsty and have to keep coming here to draw water. So she still thinks he's talking about the regular water that we drink. She doesn't understand that Jesus is talking about new life. So she wants the water because she doesn't want to come to the well every day. It must be so much work, right? To walk from your home to a well and then carry the water home. So she's thinking, oh, this will save me from all this work. But she doesn't understand. So then Jesus wants to show her who he is. He wants to show her who he really is. He changes the conversation. Verse 16. He told her, "Go, call your husband and come back." Verse 17. "I have no husband," she replied. Jesus said to her, "You are right when you say you have no husband. The fact is, you have had 5 husbands, and the man you now have is not your husband. What you have just said is quite true." So, oh my goodness, Jesus reveals to her that he knows about her life. He knows about her life. This she understands. Verse 19. "Sir," the woman said, "I can see that you are a prophet." Okay, so she sees that he's from God, like a prophet, because of his knowledge about her life. Verse 20. Verse 20 is interesting because now she gets distracted about things that people argue about. So let's look at verse 20. "Our ancestors worshipped on this mountain, but you Jews claim that the place where we must worship is in Jerusalem." So instead of focusing on this living water and the important things, she's focusing on where should we worship? In the mountain, in Jerusalem, where is the right place to worship? But actually, Jesus gives her an interesting and important answer about this question. Where is the right place to worship? At this special mountain or in Jerusalem? What does Jesus say? Verse 21. "Woman," Jesus replied, "believe me, a time is coming when you will worship the Father neither on this mountain nor in Jerusalem." Neither nor. Not on this mountain, not in Jerusalem. So, either or both and, neither nor or neither nor. You can say neither or neither. Neither nor means not this one, not that one. Okay? Neither of them. There's a time coming in the future when you don't need to worship at this mountain nor in Jerusalem. Verse 22. "You Samaritans worship what you do not know. We worship what we do know, for salvation is from the Jews." Yet, I'm sorry, I don't really understand that verse very much, except that salvation is from the Jews. Well, salvation is coming through Jesus, and Jesus is starting with the Jews, and his disciples are starting with the Jews, and then they're going out to the Samaritans and the Gentiles and all the different people in the world. But I have to be honest, I don't understand this verse very deeply. Verse 23, this is important. Verse 23. "Yet a time is coming and has now come when the true worshippers will worship the Father in the Spirit and in truth, for they are the kind of worshippers the Father seeks." Okay, so Jesus is saying that we don't need to worry about where you worship God. There's not like a holy city, Jerusalem, or holy mountain. When you worship God, the most important thing is to worship Him in spirit and in truth. We can worship God anywhere. because it's a spiritual connection. It's not about a holy place. This is quite a big change in teaching. Verse 24, God is spirit, and his worshippers must worship in the spirit and in truth. Okay. Verse 25, the woman said, I know that Messiah, called Christ, is coming. When he comes, he will explain everything to us. Then Jesus declared, I, the one speaking to you, I am he. She says she knows that one day the Messiah will come and explain everything. And wow, what a surprise. Jesus says, well, actually, I am the Messiah to her. So what do you think of today's reading? It's easy for us to get focusing on many different things that people can argue about. Is this the right way to do things? Is that the right way to do things? And these questions are important, but sometimes we forget the more important thing. The more important thing. So when Jesus was talking about the living water with her and trying to teach her something very deep and very central, she kind of got distracted about other things. But anyway, Jesus could teach her that the important ideas about we can worship God in spirit and in truth. Well, this is very interesting for me. I really am happy that Jesus is doing something very unusual. He is not prejudiced. He goes to the Samaritans. He goes to a woman. If you read the rest of this chapter, you'll see that she goes and tells her town about Jesus. She becomes the first person in her town to tell everyone about Jesus. Isn't it wonderful that Jesus used her? Because this is a person who, again, she's Samaritan, she's a woman, she's had 5 husbands. The person she's with now is not her husband. So it would be easy for Jesus to look down on her, to condemn her. But Jesus doesn't do that. Jesus speaks to her, and then she becomes a witness of Jesus and helps many people come to Jesus. I find that very encouraging. Sometimes, we don't feel good about ourselves, and we wonder, how can God use me? I'm not special. Maybe you think, sometimes I feel I'm not special. I'm not good. Why would God use me? But God can use any of us to tell others about himself. Okay, well, I hope this Bible reading was good for you today, and thank you very much for listening. I'm looking forward to our next episode. Take care, and God bless you.